Division III bids, I think, have already gone out. Um, so the way that this will work in the time trial is that the top 16, right, will go to top 18, I think, will go to the ABC semifinals. So that'll put six semifinals, 3 semifinals of 6, and 2 will go to an A final, 2 will go to a B final, 2 will go to a C final. So you can make an argument, I guess, somehow, that actually we were the 4th or 5th fastest time, but we were in the B final, and that's just sort of the way the cookie crumbles. But there's been very little sort of missorting over the years. So in the end, it's a national championship, and you've got to show up, and you've got to actually do things on that day to make clear that you're going to be there.
So all the crews that are going down these time trials are going to be racing as fast as they can, all out. What they can expect is the first crew that goes, which for us in the men's double is going to be the rowing club at Sacramento State, are going down the course about 10 seconds after them. The next crew will be on the course in the lane next to them.
Yep.
So if that crew is particularly quick, they might end up having some side-by-side racing to start the morning, and the officials will send those crews out in alternating lanes, probably every 10 seconds, 15 seconds margin. But one of these crews in the middle of the pack might try to treat it like a head race and say, I'm going to take as many boats as I can, pass as many, so that I know I'm having a fast pace, and I'm going to end up in that top 16, top 18 before I get through the finish line, because I know I've passed some crews. Some interesting habits are going to have to happen there, right? If a crew is getting the crew behind them passing them, they're going to have to yield. That might not happen so much in the doubles, might happen a little bit more in the fours, but all that to make sure that crews have a safe line to have the fastest time down the course. And we're going to see time start to come in, and as a coach and as a avid viewer of rowing, it can be something really intense. You see that first time come in, oh, that was really good. And you see a couple more, your crew looks like they're at the top of the pack, and then the rest of the middle of the pack come in, and you might see
someone's really fast.
Someone's really fast, and you might see your score, your time on the course start to drop to the middle, and okay, what's going to happen now?
And here, in fact, comes the first crew that's sort of emerging from the mist. We almost didn't see them. But this is probably Coburn and Keel from Sac State. Out in front, you'll have to pardon our speculative nature of what we're calling here, because literally we're seeing them when they hit about 1,300 meters on a 1,500 course, and
with a little bit of fog still delaying.
A little bit of fog there.
Their bow card and their bow ball. But yes, this is the rowing club at Sacramento State. This is Keel and Coburn, who are returning from last year as a full crew. Last year they finished 3rd overall. Really good swing and push on that course here.
Yeah, you don't have it on your screen, but the blades are just going in really gorgeously full length, missing a tiny little bit of water there, but there's a nice motion going, and they're being chased by William and Mary Johnson and Duell, who are visible but not moving. In fact, these first 3 crews, because the third one is Chernjak and Dolcino from Clarkson, and they're also moving very nicely. These first 3 crews, quite skillful rowing all around. In fact, this Clarkson crew, really gorgeous way that it takes the water.
Clarkson's pace is just a little bit higher above the stroke rate of the other crews. Their university won the men's double last year. Not sure if it's the same athletes as last year. Hoping to find out a little bit more about them. They're from up in Potsdam, New York, and it looks like they made a move right before the 1,500 meter mark. You could see that stroke rate popped up, and
they're about 33.5.
Settled back down into this last 500. Bowman's doing great work. From my perspective, it looks like the officials' launches, who are still trying to get some debris out to make a safe course, It looks like they're particularly close to the lanes. I know they're keeping a very safe distance, but the bowmen from all these crews are doing a great job of separating. Coming through fourth from us, University of Chicago. This is athletes Phillips and Neidstedt over in lane. Oh, yeah,
Well,
Charlie,
they're
which
just
way
in
are
the middle
lanes?
lane someplace there. I don't know which lanes they chose to send them
Which
down.
lane's
It looks
closer to
like the
us?
far side a little bit because I think they were clearer on
Yeah, that makes
the
sense. A
debris
lot of
there.
debris
So
over by
normally
us.
they'd go down the middle of the course, and I think they're going down on the far side. Not quite as skillful rowing here. A little bit of hang coming into the catch, but the rating is high, so that's good. And then behind them are Abbott and Meeker from Liberty University in Virginia. Very well appointed program, good boats, all that sort of stuff, all the things they need to go fast there in Lynchburg.
Good pickup at that front end. Pretty skeletal hang from the stroke guy. He is getting those blades in the water. He's upright, getting that swing early in the stroke. Just a little bit wash of those blades coming out, but making really good pace down the course. Times will start to come in pretty soon. We won't be giving you all of those, but you can find those on Here Now's website. Live results will be coming up as every event finishes, so you can track your crew, your college, your friends, see how they're doing on the course. Pretty big gap between Liberty and
Next, we should say Michigan State.
Michigan
but
State.
There seems
Don't
to
see them
be
on
a
the course
break
yet,
here for some reason.
despite the fog. So hoping to see.
So Eddie, you said a pretty skeletal hang. What do you
Yeah.
mean by that?
I'm thinking
I actually
about-
love that.
You'll see this from a decent amount of crews, and I'm gonna say from a decent amount of the small boat crews. At the catch, when their oars enter the water, they have nice long arms. The legs are starting to drive, but you're gonna see that the upper back tightens up and goes straight up, so that as they push the legs, the body is already starting to swing a little bit, and it's as if you can just see that tall, long frame engage early on.
The muscles.
What
And
we're
you
gonna
should have seen it here because Eddie was doing this in his seat. So
what
it
you're
was
going to see
fabulous.
a little bit more in the sweep shells, and the big shells is a lot more relaxation in that upper body from the shoulders through the ribs to the hip, because they need to twist out on the oar
Into
to
the
get
catch,
more compression and a longer stroke, versus the sculling stroke where the arms are going to spread out, the body's going to stay in the middle. We'll spend a little bit of the day, if people are tuning in with, this might be your first regatta you're watching, listening to, we'll clear up some of our jargon as we go throughout the day.
Absolutely. And if you have questions, we can handle them. I'm not sure how would we get that to us. You can go to rollingseatcoaching.com, rollingseatcoaching.com, and in the contact information, just put your stuff there and put a question, and it will come straight to us, and we can do that. We are providing the announcing for this regatta, and it should be.
You're also able to add in stuff on the chat of the live stream. So now...
That's true, and we have Christian monitoring, so that's a better idea. But go to rollingseatcoaching.com anyway, just saying.
And right now you're on the Friday time trials live stream. There will be a separate one when we get to heat racing, and then progressions day to day. There'll be a Saturday one, there'll be a Sunday one. But feel free to ask questions. Feel free to shout out for your teams, your schools, everyone that you're rooting for. It means a lot to them that you are tuning in to watch, especially early on a Friday morning. You might be on your commute, might be just having your first cup of coffee, whatever it is. Happy that
Eddie
you're here
has
with
not
us.
had coffee yet today. He's doing tea this morning, and we support that. So there's clearly been a stop in the racing. We can start to see some crews back at the 1,000, but something must have happened on the course or with the start to make sure that they wanted things to be fair. There is a whole bunch of the referees' launches that have been down here pulling debris out of the water. We got a pretty interesting, strong rain last night, and there's sort of rain coming through the entire system. All the way up from Virginia down into here in Tennessee has been having some some weather. So there's a lot of small debris in the river, the lake actually. I mean, this is the Tennessee Valley Authority, for those of you who remember sort of 1930s government development programs which transformed the American economy. And there is a dam below this, which is controlled by the Army Corps of Engineers, and they shut the water down for these regattas so that we have no current running. But that also means that the logs and the pieces of tree don't clear out of the course. So to make it fair and to make it safe, primarily safe, the referees are out there. I mean, it actually looks in one of those referee launches like a small bonfire ready to be lit, and there's so much in there. So hopefully we'll get some other crews down soon. And again, this fog is rolling in and out. But there is racing today until I think 4 or something this afternoon.
I think it's going until about 6 p.m. And now that we've had a bit of a delay to start the day, we might be out here as the sun is beginning to set, which is not common for ACRA because the event is very well executed, both from the officials, from the coaches, and athletes at prompt to.
So 6:09 will be the women's double C finals. So we will already have some finals today.
We plan, and you can expect that everything will run on time. Whatever we might be falling behind on this morning, we'll be able to make up throughout the middle of the day, not by rushing through, but by being diligent about our centers between regattas. But there might be a little bit that we need to extend out through the day. It's happened before, back when I rode at the ACRA Regatta 10, 11 years ago. I remember
he's so ancient I can
races.
Feel the bones ossifying right now.
Some of my most memorable races were while that sun was setting to make sure we got everything in during the day.
Yeah.
So we're still looking at the course and some overhead shots from our drones, and that is because although the men's double event started, there was a stopping point. The officials stopped
So we got
all
5
crews
boats in. Yeah.
from launching, and we're going to guess either the fog became too dense somewhere in the first 1,000 meters, debris drifted back on the course, but they're holding athletes safely at the start. I think just about 30 seconds ago there was a great shot of the crews waiting to queue into the lanes. Right now we're just watching crews warm up. We'll be alert as soon as we see.
Another great thing about this regatta actually is, we just mentioned there's Eastern Sprints tomorrow. There are a whole bunch of women's conference championships today. There are 2 major junior regattas this weekend. Referees are hard to come by on this weekend, but we have a great ref crew here.
Some of the best.
Some of the best. They all want to work with Sam, who's the head referee here, and he's actually one of our first inductees into the ACRA Hall of Fame. He's been with the regatta since the beginning. Just a great head ref to work with, runs a great ship, and so he's able to attract a really great bunch of referees. So we are confident that they are making absolutely the best decisions for this entire situation. And we're just lucky to sit here and fill time. In fact, if you look at the shot you have right now, you'll just see that the crews are just being held up above the start.
Yeah, thank you. And what they're being held in front of, for any new viewers, that line of dock in front of it is the stake boat. So when we do get to heats and semifinals and finals later this weekend, crews are going to line up, push their sterns up into that section so they can be held by volunteers, so that we can align the crews as perfectly as possible, so that there's a fair start to every race. As we get to finals, I believe the drone crew is going to get as many of the starts of the races, because it is thrilling, right? Sometimes the races are not decided off the start, but you can see crews really making a push to put themselves ahead in those first 5 strokes, in those first 10, 15, and just the puddles that you see, you can tell how hard people are pushing on it. Through time trials, we'll usually pick things up from the 750 onwards, or maybe the first 500 onwards. But cruiser launch, so it is safe to launch out there from the lagoon, looking at the beautiful Blue Ridge Mountains, right? Here in Oak Ridge, Tennessee.
Smoky
we'll wait
Mountains.
for the Smoky Mountains. Fits the fog as we see the crews waiting for the regatta to resume.
Yeah, and so if you look at that that structure out there on the left, there's a long gangway that then goes out to a small white tent. And that white tent is actually where the aligner will be to make sure that all of the bow balls are right on the line. There's a stake across the lake from them. And you've got to get that lined up within a millimeter or so, because you can win or lose by that much at the finish. So they're very, very good at this course about having all the structures they need in place to do that. So they're still clearly loading the regatta out onto the river. Those are probably the men's 4s you see going up, varsity men's 4s, which is the last time. There's also a novice men's 4, yes. So it could be one of those also loading up at this point. So they're making sure that the regatta is going to be ready, and we'll just see that as it comes.
Yeah, all these crews have gotten a good amount of practices on the course so far. Some crews arriving as early as Tuesday to get practices on the course. Yesterday was full of athletes getting the most out of a pretty nice hot day. Very clear on the river, on the lake. So everyone has their coordinates, their course figured out, some time between the buoys to know exactly what they want to execute when it counts this morning. I believe we have some Texas crews there, some Gordon crews, maybe some Delaware. Nebraska Lincoln is here. First time that I've seen them racing since I've come to announce, but great shot here of everyone waiting patiently, hopefully close to a bow number near them. If bow 1 and bow 2 are 12 boats apart, a little bit of a headache for them to assert themselves to the top. Because one thing, again, since time trials are a really big part of the sport as it's expanded, some events, they're not too particular about what order they send crews out in, so long as someone's there from an event. Oh, sure, 1 can go, and then bow number 10.
Not here.
ACRA is going to be very specific. It matters. We need to know, and it really helps the athletes, again, since it's more of a head race style. You're following a crew. You're not racing them side by side. It matters to know what the margins are on that crew ahead of you. They started 10 seconds ahead of you, and you maintained the same distance on them the whole way. Okay, you guys are about 10 seconds apart, hopefully, at least. So it's really helpful for the athletes to know, especially in these boats. So as you can tell in the doubles, just 2 athletes. So unlike sweep boats, there is no coxswain. There's no one specifically leading the boat and talking through the race. So the athletes are taking on double duty, steering their own race.
We just had some great video here as they panned, as the drone panned over. You could see that the process, right? There are 2 crews right there ready to go, and a third one just sort of off to the right there, and a 4th one sitting with the referee's launch there. So they're being marshaled up in order, and they're being sort of fed into the system in a way that allows for those 10-second intervals or so, 12-second intervals that we were seeing earlier in the day. And there's again a sort of nice long row of marshaled crews. What we're hearing is that there is enough fog up at the starting area that the referees can't verify the crew at the starting line. So they're waiting to make sure that they can have, they need to make sure it's the right crew going off at the right time, and so they're just waiting for that to lift a little bit to keep going. Again, in rowing we have safety and fairness, and this is both.
Yeah. So crews are going to wait anxiously. They're going to be excited for when the fog lifts and they can get back on the course.
Mm-hmm.
But they've taken their warm-up seriously.
And that's the frustrating part, because they got up early, they were ready, they did their warm up, they did everything they need to be, and now they have to go up there and they can't go off and warm up some more because you don't know when you're going to go. So they're all just sitting there now.
Yeah, and they can't put their sweats back on or sit on the bench and
they may even have emptied out their water bottles.
Yeah,
so.
yeah. So we're hearing that it might be just another minute or two before we get these crews started again in front of us around the 1,500-meter mark. Again,
Yep.
diligent amount of volunteers and officials pulling up any debris that's floated around from the rainfall. So we're excited. We're excited to see.
Yep, there's a crew rowing.
And this
there we
should
go.
be
They've started. That should be Michigan State.
Texas.
Michigan State.
Michigan State?
Yeah, we stopped it. We got through to Liberty, and we did not see Michigan State yet.
Okay. I've seen some burnt orange on my screen. So we'll see when they come
We'll
by
see who
us.
they are.
But we've had
The same
in
question that's facing the referees
Yeah.
up there. Who are they?
We'll have the certainty in a minute. We've had 5 men's crews come through in the men's doubles, so this event started. There was a pause to make sure the fog was clear, and we're back on. So we've already seen the rowing club at Sacramento State, William & Mary, Clarkson University, University of Chicago, and Liberty University. So either bow 6 or 7 is coming down here. Seeing the state flag of Texas, that is Ryan and Manjonath from University of Texas.
It is Texas.
Hook 'em Longhorns. Nice long stroke here. Yeah, good high stroke rate to start their piece off of the first 500. I'm sure these guys have been waiting to open up this can. So they're
About
go.
34 and a half, 35. Although there's a little bit of I'm not sure, buffering in the image right now, so
Sure. But
hard to get it.
What Charlie's talking about is the stroke rate of their race, which is important for us. You're going to hear us talk about that a lot. It is the cadence. It is strategic.
How many strokes per minute is
How many
basically,
strokes per minute, and it's going to vary by crew depending on fitness, depending on how they approach their sport, and what they need to do. So you're going to see that a lot of crews, to get their maximum speed, are going to be between, I'm going to say 33 strokes per minute to maybe 38 strokes per minute. Higher than that, it's just there's not so much you can actually recover and take another stroke effectively. Maybe in a crew's first 250 meters of the race, they might clock in 40, 41 strokes per minute, but that's not a sustainable pace. They might also do it at their sprint, but the body of most of the races, 2,000 meters or in a time trial, which is probably 1,900 meters, you're going to see a more even pace. If this is a 2,000 meter course, the 500 meter markers are clearly indicated and points in a race where a crew is going to make a strategic bump, whether that's 5 strokes up at a higher stroke rate, 5 strokes where they try to change their pace and set into a new one, or just use that as pacing across the course.
And the smaller the boats, the more variety there is in approaches to coming down the race course. One of the other things that affects the choice of stroke rate is also sometimes body mass. So smaller guys, smaller women may actually be able to get up faster or need to get up faster, and stronger, longer people can be a little bit lower and have the same speed. So each crew finds their own way. I would not be surprised in the men's varsity 8 final to see crews basing around 37 and 38 most of the way down. That's been a transformation in the sport in the last 15 years or so, also coming down now to the college level. Remember at Dadvale one year watching Florida Tech never really settled below 40 to try and stay out in front of Michigan, and it worked. But they went to 40 and raced the entire way down the course, Michigan sitting at 36, 37. And it was still only a couple of seats in the end, but that they were getting off that. But that's what they felt they needed to do to get out in front of the other crew. Different racing approaches, but here in the time trials, you have nobody next to you. You can see the other crew, 10 seconds behind you maybe, but you need to not get lulled into some sort of false confidence that, oh, I'm beating that crew, because you don't know what the other 29 crews are doing.
Right. And what you can expect to see from these athletes in the double and the fours later on in these time trials is this is probably their basic or foundational approach to a race. So let's say this crew, what's this Michigan State crew based at, Charlie?
Let me check. Well, I was going to check, but they looked like they were about a 34.
It is strong, it is long, but they don't need to react to anything around them. I think also with the resume and racing, not too many crews are next to them. So they're just going out and doing exactly what they planned to do.
So Eddie, you're the head coach at Row New York in Manhattan, a program that works with historically excluded youth doing rowing and life skills and prep and stuff like that. And you just had a very successful New York States, but that all started with time trials. How did you approach that with your crews?
Well, our time trials. So these are 1,750 meter time trials. The ones at the youth level were 1,500 meters up in Saratoga Springs, and I actually had my crew do something a little different than what I'm saying these college crews did. I said, treat it like it's the only race you get to have today, and rip it as hard as you could. They hit their base pace. They were going 36 strokes per minute in whether they're fours or they're pair or they're eight, because the water and the weekend had the chance of torrential rain that might have canceled some of the finals, so we just wanted to get the best seating we could out of it. So
well, because that would be the result. Final.
That would be the result. So we are seeing some crews passing each other. Texas has passed us by. Michigan State is coming up on, I believe, a Virginia crew, and that would be Kelly and Schmidt out of Virginia. So Michigan State not reacting, but getting to enact a little bit of their side-by-side racing strategy. They see this crew is ahead of them, and they are trying to take as much distance per stroke as they can to hopefully establish either their stern ahead of the bow of the Virginia boat or open water.
And that Michigan State crew is rowing at about a 33 and a half.
33 and a half.
Very relatively low, but not for a double, not necessarily low.
And a really nice hang off the front end. You're not seeing it so much from the aerial, but we'll point it out when you see some side-by-side. They put their oars in the water. These guys are long. But they are not trying to sit upright on the stroke right away. They're instead using their length on the legs to push and guide the boat and using the hips to swing it open a little bit longer. Fog setting in just a little bit more. Can't quite see the bow number of the crew passing us.
I think that's Colorado State.
Colorado State, if everything is in order.
Yep, green and white.
Some finish times have come in from those initial crews that have started. The pace to beat right now is a 5:45 time from William and Mary. Clarkson close by at 5:59. So crews, they don't know it yet, but they are looking to have sub-6 times on the course, sub-6 minute times on the course to put themselves in that top 16 to 18.
Which is for them, it's shorter. It's like you were running a mile and get to take off half of the last lap and not have to do that kick. Or do it earlier. We have Northwestern State, or we're assuming Northwestern State in the fog.
And then
Wichita State, very definitely, that's the Shockers there.
Passing through the 1,500
Diana Velasquez and Bobbitt. So you can probably hear already, they're from all across the country, which is also pretty cool. And then Auburn, sort of a newly reviving program with Jason Beagle there as their coach.
That's great. I have not seen them since I started announcing ACRAs. I know some people who rode for them back 10 years ago, so I'm really happy to see that they're back here. A little bit of Alabama representation. I think if you did, what would you call it, bingo or something else, almost every state represented here. A couple off the top of my head.
A little thin off some of the Mountain West, but
some
we have Colorado, we have Idaho.
Alabama now, strong representation. I don't think we have a Mississippi crew yet, so that lower belt not entirely here. But the ones who are here putting a good amount of work down the course. So you guys are seeing closer to, this is starting to catch up, coming closer to the 1,500 meter on your screen. Next crew coming through.
Wash U, Fong, and Porter.
Great. WashU out of St. Louis coming
And
down.
that's a go big red call going up.
Avid cheering from their teammates nearby. Now it's a nice tight field coming up. You can see it as well. 3 doubles across 3 lanes who are
Lafayette, Nebraska, and I think Pittsburgh.
great, who really have to race each other. And this is going to be great because you can be prepared, you can be fit, and put a great time on the course. But as soon as you have someone next to you, you just push that much harder.
And they are actually in the lanes next to each other. You don't have to finish in your lane. You can go across and all this sort of stuff, but you can't impede anybody else's water. So that's a nice move through. I think Nebraska going through. It's hard to tell. Nebraska's on the far side, I'm guessing, with the red. There's one of the ways we do this is each program has its own oar design, assuming that they've painted the oars. So there were some mixed oars going on there.
Great. Slight correction to some of those times coming in. Again, you can find them on herenow.com's site, hosting live results coming in. The time to beat is just under 6 minutes from Clarkson University. A little bit of mix-up on my end earlier. So that is Clarkson, who I believe finished in the top 3 last year. Oh, top 3 because they won last year.
There you
I don't know if
go.
it's the same athletes as last year. But now we are starting to see
Virginia
I believe,
Commonwealth,
VCU, and I think this is
Northwest.
Jaguars rowing, just from the blades.
Is that Northwest State? Jaguars is.
I think this is actually Middlebury, who have a very distinct oar. That is a cow print on the oar, and I believe that is Jaguars rowing
Yes.
from Indianapolis University.
Oh,
Purdue.
Indiana University
Thank
at
you, thank you,
Indianapolis.
thank you.
And Purdue University. It's a combined thing. That's also if you watch the Olympic trials for diving, they're almost always at the natatorium in Indianapolis.
IUPUI. This is their top crew here, so I'm excited to see what the time they put down is. I'm sure they're very excited to try and assert themselves to the top of the doubles pack. Middlebury's crew also looking good. They should have a good amount of crews here this weekend coming down from Vermont or New Hampshire? Vermont. A couple of Vermont crews here. Vermont University itself is also here.
So we're sitting at the 1,500 meter mark, so that's 500 meters to go, which is about when some crews start to push for the end, and a little bit of that Jaguars crew, a little bit of sky happening as they came in there trying to get it, and they had to get that back under control.
And what Charlie means by that is as they look to enter the oars in the water, their oars are going a little too high up, so it's a really big chop down, which there's an impact and the boat's still going to move, but so much of this sport is how effective, how efficient can you be. So if the blade gets any more than an inch above and away from the water, that could be make or break in how quickly your stroke is starting
you can get onto the water. Here's
from our point of view, they're a little bit off your screen. UMass has just passed by in the double, and I believe
Swanee
has
University of the South
passed through the 1,500 meter mark. On your screen, you're seeing the red buoys, which indicates the last 250 meters of the course. So that is Jaguars rowing. Coming
that same race we were talking about
Yep.
earlier.
And Middlebury actually gained a lot of ground back on them. I'll double check the start order in a minute, but both those crews are about to pass through the finish line, indicated by the larger reddish orange buoys in the right corner of your screen, and across the middle of your screen you can see the 2,000 meter indicator now panning out and away. So really great race by those crews. Excited to see what their times are coming in
Rice
through.
coming through. Rice University coming through there, sort of in their own little land, and with the, and I don't know if that means that there was a gap in the start or what, but they particularly with this fog, essentially rowing down by themselves. So you've got to be able to race internally and sort of go hard. We now have 3 doubles coming up, so this should be interesting. It should be Delaware, Yukon, and Vermont, maybe. That looks like Yukon with the blue and white.
Up ahead with the blue and blue oars, as I'll call them, is URI.
Oh, is that URI?
Yeah, just by the the shade of the blue on that. So they've made some
started
moves.
quite back,
Yeah,
actually.
they've made a move, and these guys are looking really good. They look like a really long stroke because they're very tall guys. So they're sitting back in their finish, and they're trying to walk away, open up as much water between them and whatever crews have been around them.
And up at 35.5, almost 36.
Which is great. They were at the top of your screen a second ago. On the far shore from us is Vermont on the other end. And I'm looking for the Kansas Blades. That should be a Delaware crew.
Delaware crew. The Kansas Blades are white with two small stripes.
Okay. Delaware blue with a yellow tip at the end.
So once they got this
University
going,
of Connecticut actually. Oh, I had it wrong. So yeah, University of Connecticut looking with blades that I didn't recognize. So this is a really strong stroke that they're putting down here. I think Charlie said around 35.5. They've entered the red buoys right now, but just a great pickup at the catch again. In the sweep with one oar, there's a lot of twisting, a lot of rotation to get length. These guys are getting length mostly because their knees are rising up pretty high up to their chest, and they have long legs.
And
so
they're getting their hands apart from each other.
And they're getting their hands apart, but not so far apart where they might get stuck at the catch. It's a pretty nice entry that they are propelling powerfully off of. Last few crews in the men's double coming up and through.
So that looks like Kansas there with the white, the near boat in the yellow, the light yellow
okay,
shell.
that would be Kansas, and that might be UNC next to them out of Chapel Hill.
Or URI.
Or URI. We'll find out in just a minute.
The guy in the lead boat is saying to his partner, "We're neck and neck. Let's get them now." So, and there's a response coming there out of Vermont, but that looks like Kansas has gotten through.
That's great.
Vermont there, assuming that is the Kansas crew.
That's great. On your screen, you have Delaware. They are in their last 250 meters of the race, trying to put down a little bit of debris coming underneath them. Nothing that looks like it's going to obstruct their piece, but compared to that Connecticut crew we just saw, a lot more spread out from the arms here, which can help out a lot.
You can also see a difference in the legs there. The stroke is letting his knees come out a little bit too much. The bow has got them nice and in, so that's a place that they can work on.
They just passed
finding
through
a
the
little more
finish line.
speed.
So again, you can find results at herenow.com. Live results instantaneous, so they'll be up in just a second.
So we're looking for 3 more crews here. UNC, I think, has just gone past that light Carolina blue, and then we'll have Bucknell and Central Florida.
I think this might be
this
Central
is
Florida.
The Kansas crew.
This is
That's
Kansas
the
crew?
Kansas Blade there, I think. Oh, maybe not. Again, we sort of see them as they emerge from the fog. It's very sort of 19th century British novel on the moors. That's not a Kansas Blade.
But that crew looks great, so I'm really happy to see him coming down the course. On your screen, it looks like this is UNC with the Tar Heel logo at the bottom corner. Nice long stroke with croaker blades. You can tell by that pink collar. And strong follow through. They're probably going to kick it up into the sprint sequence that they have to finish a regular race to seal off the best piece they can to start their weekend off, hopefully in the best position possible.
Everything nice and parallel there, so they're applying the same force both side to side and from rower to rower. That's what the double really demands for it to go fast.
Yeah, great look through here as they come through the finish. A little less debris in their lane.
So we're going to assume that all of the doubles have gotten through. I think that's correct.
We
may have missed a crew on the side.
Because now
we should be moving soon into the men's novice 4. But again, if you want to go to herenow.com and find the results, you'd be looking for the top 18 crews to go in, and a couple of things to look for. One, what's the difference in time between number 1 and number 18? And also, what's the difference in time between number 18 and number 19? Because that can be heartbreaking sometimes. But
So these are the guys we were talking about just a second ago. I'm not going to speak about which college they are because I can't see their bow number and I don't recognize their oars, but I love the stroke that they're putting down here again. Good length as they enter their oars of the water at their catch position. Good spread from their arms, about shoulder width apart, just a little bit over the elbow of those riggers. And
now they're missing a little bit of water there. You can see they're sort of slapping the blade in a little bit.
Yeah, they're
Yeah, but that just happened. It just happened now as they tried to throw in a sprint to the end, and they're across the line. So that was their last 10 or 15 strokes, and sometimes in the last 10 or 15, you have to sort of put that last bit together. One of the things that's happening in this regatta is that you actually, Eddie was correct. You want to go hard in your time trial, because if for some reason the regatta is canceled, not that we expect it to be, they would take the placement off of the time trial if that's all they have. It's still data that they have that they can use. So you can't just do nothing here and hope that works. So we're going to move now from these doubles that, in some ways we know very little about. Who, is it the two best guys on the team? Have they just put a double and gone for it all season? Is it, guys who were for some programs not, so there was a Virginia double in there. Virginia does a good amount of sculling as part of their program and are always smart. That's just for you, Frank Biller, Sculling School. No, Virginia is actually the number 1 seed in the men's 8 here. They are coming with a very, very strong crew. But just a small inner joke about that and inside joke. But now what we're going to start seeing and what you can see on your screen are the novice men's 4. So novice means first year of collegiate rowing. You could have rowed for 4 years in high school and 2 years in middle school. You come to ACRA, and we have a whole set of novice events. They used to be called freshman events, sort of harking back to the Ivy League, which used to require freshman sport, freshman team in any sport. My dad played football, and he had to play freshman football his freshman year. So you can start to see these boats. We're about to have to reset the feed a little bit. So these 4s here are going to either, in most cases, be the number 9 to 12 guys in their novice program, or it's going to be the 4 best guys in their program if they've prioritized the 4. So we have Texas coming by us out in the far third, and then chased by Purdue. Purdue is last year's ACRA champions as a team, men's team, the first non-Michigan team victory in the history of the regatta.
Something important a lot of these crews are looking to do, since this regatta can offer rowing in every type of boat, right? So every event can be, there's 8s, there's 4s, there's quads, there's doubles, there's pairs. It benefits programs to have a larger presence here. So the more athletes you can bring in your club, the more events you can race, benefits you, because overall you're hoping to win your event, but you're also hoping your team does so well so that you can either take back the team points trophy or the small boats trophy. Both are points for every finish that you get. So until last year, Michigan rowing would take back the team points trophy because they would race in all of the 8s and then most of the small boats events. Purdue, men and women, both earned the small boats trophy. I'm sorry, the team points trophy last year, and I believe Texas got it for the men's small boats and Lafayette for the women's small boats. So I'm going to assume that Texas Novice 4 is their top 4 novice guys, and they're looking to get the same result from last year. They
And
passed
I don't
by.
think they have a novice 8, if
I don't think so.
remember correctly.
So.
So we have Georgia Tech that's gone by, and here
Notre
Dame.
is on the left side of your screen, chasing down. I believe that's that Georgia Tech boat.
Yep.
Really like what I'm seeing from that Notre Dame crew. Their program was the men's varsity 8 winner last year, which was incredible. Their first ACRA win in the V8. But I think I see, just from the heat sheets, a deeper program here this year. A couple more 8s, a couple more novice entries. So really love what I'm seeing out of those guys. High stroke rate. Looks like they're getting a little bit too stuck up at that catch where
they're hanging out a little bit. Yep.
They're squeezing, but they could move a little bit more out of their puddles, but I think that's because their stroke rate is picking up to catch that crew. It's ahead of them. Southern Cal's novice 4 here. I believe their only novice entry in their first year with the new coach.
And that USC crew looking nice and long. Really good entry going in.
I really like the 3-man. So as you're looking at this crew on your screen, that should be, am I looking right? That should be Oklahoma State on your screen. So the person in the lead of the boat is stroking in the 4 seat, and then from there to the bow of the boat is the 1 seat. So 4, 3, 2, 1. Behind them is the coxswain, who is left off the screen right now just by perspective, but they're leading the boat by steering, making the calls, executing the race plan. So in this crew, at a pretty solid race pace, nothing too high.
I think that's Oklahoma State.
This is Oklahoma State. Strokeman's doing a great job. You can see with this shot, gritting his teeth, making sure that everything he is putting out is going right onto the handle to move the boat. Nothing is lost. So a really great zoomed in shot on them. A couple crews trying to chase them down from our point of view, passing by the
It's a Vanderbilt crew coming by us that looks quite nice. Their coach, John, has been doing a lot of work. They're building solid crews over the years. Women have been particularly fast recently. And it's definitely Vanderbilt because we have a bunch of people running behind us saying, "Go Vandy!"
So Commodores, Vanderbilt, a lot of teammates on the shore cheering for them. Fox pulling up just a little bit more, so we're having a little bit of trouble seeing. But we'll talk about who's on your screen. Oklahoma State is not yet in the last 250 meters, but what we're also looking at from this point of view is every stroke they create a puddle, and you can tell how fast they're moving by how far they're getting away from that puddle. So right now in the 4 shell, there should be a good amount of distance. That 1 seat's blade should be getting past the stern tip of this beautifully orange shell, stroke after stroke. As that stroke rate goes up closer to 38 or 40, it might not be a full length. It's still an effective stroke just because they're getting that next one in so soon. But at this base pace, it should be about a boat length per stroke. I think they've just passed by our perspective, so that should be past the 1,500 meter mark. And then
they're about a 32, 31 and a half.
Coming down in that lane to their right from this perspective. Bucknell also always in the hunt for the team points trophy. They roll really deep with a lot of 8s and then 4s once we wrap up on the 8s crews. They're passing by our point of view. Their coach, Dan Wallenben, always does a great job year in, year out. I love the pickup that this is a novice 4, and that stroke pair long, and as soon as that blade enters the
leg press is just moving the boat.
The leg press is great. There is just so much effective power behind it. There's nothing ripping out of the water, right? There's no legs shooting down without the boat moving. Actually a pretty live stroke.
There should be Michigan coming up behind them. Michigan Bucknell have raced a number of times this year, but these novice 4s are probably a new event. They've raced as novice 8s or second novice 8s, so they don't know who's faster or who's not. Michigan going after it, maybe a little rushy out of the bow as they try and take the rating up into a sprint, but they're going full out, both of those crews at this time, wanting not only necessarily to qualify, but if you have a view on medaling, you also sort of want it. The better you get in there, the way that they circle seed the semifinals, you set yourself up for a better situation rather than sort of having caught a crew that is fast but had a sort of so-so time trial. And a fair gap there after Michigan and Bucknell went through. This should be Illinois. Had the pleasure of working with Illinois on their spring break this year down in Georgia. Went down and coached with them for most of the week, and new coach there, Peter Felice, really sort of building a program back. Lots of stuff that can go very well in Illinois. I recognize the two-man, and I cannot tell you how much growth has happened in that rowing in 6 or 7 weeks. Really going after it as he always does, but in control and in rhythm. And that boat is going out for it. The coxswain could settle down all the way into the boat. I think that would be helpful, but maybe with the fog, it's harder for them to see a little bit.
Yeah, I think they're excited. I think they want to make sure that they're making the most out of the course, and the officials are doing a great job making sure there's a clear path for all of them in the course. But it's Novice, right? There's a lot of things that are going to happen, and they're putting their best effort out on the course, and they're going to wrap up this year, look back, and be like, oh, my God, I was doing that, right? Because they're just so excited to be down here racing, representing their team, and especially if, Charlie said that some people, maybe they rode for a couple years before they got here. Some people, this is their first year ever in the sport. A lot of people tuning in. This might be your first time watching a regatta, or you had to attend a regatta this year and watch from the shore for the first time. Hopefully this is a little bit better view instead of watching them come by for 25
There is that Illinois
strokes.
crew right on there. You can see getting out. I was working with them on getting out long and getting hung, and there they were doing it. So we have missed a Virginia crew someplace. You're seeing them on the live feed here right now, but coming down the course was Wash U. So I don't know if Virginia got out of order somehow, or maybe we just missed them in the fog. Anything is possible today. But that's Virginia. I believe that is not a Virginia blade. Again, that's
Washington
Wash U
U
there.
out of St. Louis.
Yeah, and we saw them coming through, and that's red, not orange. So there we go. And then George Mason coming down. Long time George Mason was being coached by Bob Spousta, sort of a real leader in the sport and the holder of multiple head of the Charles singles records in the Masters category. He's sort of moved on along now. He's there, and he's sort of working as the director of rowing, but he's turned most of the coaching over to younger coaches. And in fact, Bob Spousta walking up behind us right now to watch the crew and not hearing what we're saying. So that's great. After George Mason is Fordham, and they have a new coach too.
Yeah, Jamie Kopis has taken the lead this year and is prioritizing the 8s, but I know he knows how to coach a 4 very well. So these guys in the 4 are coming down at a really high clip, doing a great job. I think really excited and invigorated by the new leadership of that program out of the Bronx, rowing out of City Island. So I think they're also loving this water, which might be some of the best, flattest they've seen all year.
So what is this? There's no wind. How are we supposed to row here?
Northwestern is on your screen, repping in the purple. Good work from this Novice crew. They're actually doing a great job at that catch, entering and I'm going to say kicking off the front end. There's a really big step and swing, and they're holding on to it too. I think they're moving pretty well. We now can see the coxswain on the screen. They're represented pretty well. Also sitting up a little bit high in the shell. But you can see this crew, bow seats, puddles, getting just before the end of the stern.
They're clearly into a sprint here, though.
Yeah.
They're moving. It's a little ragged. That just sort of happens the first time you do it in a regatta.
Yeah, in the red buoys. But these guys are trying to give it everything they have together to get through that line. Sometimes they're coming in. It looks like right now the time to beat is just under 6 minutes from Texas again. They won the small boats point trophy last year. So that is, and small boats, I mean boats that are 4s, quads, doubles, pairs, singles. So anything less than the 8s getting points for those shells. And Texas won overall, so it makes sense that their Novice 4 is probably their top 4 guys. Virginia right now looking as a close second, just over the 6-minute mark. But you can go find those on Here Now. I'm not going to read them all to you. That's what they're here for. Doing the live stream, doing the live results. While we wait for the next crew, it's just past the top of the hour, 15 minutes past. But if you're joining us, if you did not log on right away this morning, this is Eddie Moog, Charlie Sullivan, Christian Yu, leading the broadcast for ACRA National Championship down in Oak Ridge, Tennessee at Melton Lake. Thanks for being with us here this morning. This is the Men's Novice 4 event. On your screen, we got a crew in maroon.
I believe that is Chicago.
Chicago, stroked by Ibrahim. Just making it through the line, coming off of their sprint, recoiling, and catching their breath. Good work by that crew. In front of us, we're parked at the 1,500 meter mark, which is a really exciting place to be because we are that entry point to the last quarter of the race. So when we get side-by-side racing, it's not make or break here, but crews are going to make their last decision about what do we need to do to get ahead of the pack or assert ourselves further ahead. So we're going to see some really decisive racing as we come through. For the most part, when we get to that side-by-side racing, I think we'll be able to see it just a click ahead of you all on the live stream, but we'll make sure that we don't spoil anything. Instead, get it in time. This next crew coming down into their sprint through some messy water is that George Mason crew, I believe, right, with that green and gold blades.
Green and gold blades. Yep, that is them.
Yeah, George Mason.
And we're getting
I got it wrong. William and Mary.
Another green and gold crew from Virginia.
Battery level is low. Aircraft will return to the home point in 10 seconds.
Nice. Pulling up on your screen, passing to the 1,500 meter mark, 2 crews, and we can hear, I believe, the crew on the further side of the lake. I can hear their coxswain making the calls, really trying to get their guys.
That would be Ohio State.
Ohio State in line because they're just slightly down. I believe the angle right now makes it look like they're overlapping, but I would say Ohio State's bow and their bow card is a little bit behind the crew ahead of them. Just a little bit of open water, but I can tell that coxswain is doing everything they can to eliminate that gap. Again, that crew likely started.
It's maybe Lafayette.
Ahead of the crew that they're trying to pass. Behind the crew they're trying to pass. So now they're trying to make up and catch that margin to close in, and so know that they're at least 10 seconds faster.
Well, and if nothing else, they can just hook into the other crew and they'll push each other towards the finish line.
Exactly. Sports Science 101. You push harder when someone's right next to you.
Absolutely.
But I believe this is William
This
and Mary
looks like
in front of us with those green and gold blades. Faded through. This is bow number 59. What is that? 55. That might be the Ohio State crew up in the red buoys. There you go. That's the same race we were just looking at. So everyone's in the red right now. Hopefully not seeing red yet, but maybe emptying out the tank to put down the fastest time. Because again, these time trials, if you didn't hear us explain them earlier, they can be decided like every race. They can be decided by decimal points of time. So you can put down your best piece and course record. But if someone comes in 1/10 of a second faster than you, that is, for some crews, going to decide if they go to the A, B, or C semifinals or if they go right to the D final of their event, or E final later on in the day in some of the deeper events. Because some of these crews, if every final needs to be 6 crews across, it's going to be tough to assert yourself into that top 6, that middle 6.
absolutely.
Passing by us as Middlebury, you'll be able to see them pretty soon on your screen as they have 500 meters to go in their piece. They are clear from the cow print oars, classic
Cow print, baby.
oar design that is just unmistakable among other crews. Everyone has blue, everyone has maroon. These guys set themselves apart. Bow number 59 is New Hampshire. Great to see them back here. Another New England area crew. Got the bucket hat in stroke. Also a really long stroke. I think a pretty controlled stroke rate. Not trying to overdo it. novice guys, I'm looking at Bowman's puddle, is, just getting through the stern, so it's about a boat length every single stroke. Not doing too much out of their regular race pace to get up and out of the
It's really
core
very
there.
nice swinging motion together, all 4 of them on the recovery coming up. That's actually set up because their power, their drive is nice and matched up, so they can swing out without having to fight each other. It gets much more efficient, which is what you actually try and do in this. As we're panning back now, we should be seeing
This is
maybe
Tulane.
UNH. Is that Tulane?
This is Tulane at a New Orleans with a big T across their chest and a clear, what is that, or the green wave on their oars. So they're actually somewhere in the opening 1K. We see a lot of debris from last night's rain. These guys, I like their stroke. They have a nice tall catch from this aerial point of view. Awesome. They're coming up close to us at the 1,500 meter mark. Entry could be a little bit sharper, but again, this is novice. These are guys who are in their first year of collegiate rowing, some of whom in their first 12 months of rowing. So
if you look at
great
the
piece.
3-seat there, one of the things that's really
the white
nice
hat.
is as soon as the blade goes in and the white hat, it's locking in pretty well. Immediately, as soon as I say this, of course, it gets just a little sloppy, but that's okay. But that's what you're looking to have, is an immediate link and connection to the water, and then you lever the boat past that point. So you want it to slip as little as possible.
Nice. Coming up on the screen, I believe, what is this light blue? That might be UNC.
UNC, yeah. That's UNC from
And
when
then
they went
Vermont beside them on our screen, UMass, Novice 4. I believe they're heavy Novice 4, coming through the 1,500 meter mark. Tulane making their way up to the last 250 meters. So Tulane's bow number is behind UNC and Vermont. So assuming everything started in order, they might have really gained some ground on the crews that started ahead of them. Would be impressive to see. We'll find out in the results.
And then
pretty
finally, we see at least Florida coming by. That would be the last crew.
soon. Florida Gators.
Just sort of looking quickly at the results. So Texas at a 5:56, 10 seconds out in front of Virginia. That's pretty amazing. And then another 2 seconds back to Vanderbilt, but if you look between place 6 and place 14 or so, it's 3 seconds.
Wow, that's a tight
So there's
margin.
an enormous amount of tight racing that's gone on here in this 4, and it means that when they come back this afternoon, you may be the 4th or 5th seed in your semifinal and still be right on speed to kick people out. It's going to be fascinating.
Fighting for your
Awesome.
life
Fighting
to make
for
it
your
out
life
of
to
your
make it out of
semifinal.
the semifinal.
That was Florida on our screen a second ago. I'm sure we'll see them soon. They're Novice 4. Great look. Really like stroke pairs. There we go. Back on the attack. I like 3-man. I really like that stretch out. He's a long guy. You can see he's pretty tall. And so those arms are making it across. And this is that twist I was talking about that we don't see in the sculling stroke. So they come up, arms away. The body tilts over and through the hips. The knees rise up all pretty much through the center line of the boat. But to get the most length on the stroke, one with which you can have power on, those arms have to rotate across your midsection without your weight.
So you see the shoulders following the oar handle.
You don't want the weight of your torso or your core displacing side to side too much and rocking the boat. So you got to have a really strong movement through the ribs and long arms. So that stern pair, great placement. I'm looking at the hand that's holding onto the outside end of their handle, almost in line with their inside knee, the one closest to their rigger. Really impressive hang and pick up over those guys out of Gainesville. Great shot coming down here, as we should be seeing, if I'm looking at this angle correctly. First crew from the varsity women's 4.
That would be
should
FIT.
FIT, Florida Institute of Technology, last year's champion
They
in this event.
dominated that event.
They dominated, and the stroke I'm seeing now, you can see on your screen. Not going to call it, but I'm going to expect the margins to be pretty far and ahead of their field.
So FIT was a varsity program in Division I that was defunded, but a bunch of these women were recruited athletes for Division I, still on scholarship because the university has to has to, I'm assuming, still on scholarship. If they were on scholarship, the university would have to honor those scholarships all the way through. And they've come down to ACRA and really done a nice job and actually enjoying racing here. So that's great.
Also helmed by Coach Davey, who does a great job with athletes who recruited or developed homegrown, perhaps, out of Melbourne. Great stroke here, great clip. And this is one of those examples of a crew where the stroke rate's up pretty high. And don't get it mistaken. They look smooth. There is this long patience that you see in their stroke, but don't get it mistaken. They are pushing. They are at it. This is a sprint. It's just the effect of really good rowing that it looks so patient and calm. But they're not up at a stroke rate like we've talked about earlier at 38 strokes per minute or 40 to affect their speed, because they're so strong that they can get those margins, let's say 10 meters per stroke, something around that, around 36 strokes per minute. They don't need to overdo, I'm not going to say game the stroke. They can hit it hard, push, and trust that their legs are going to get them down the way. Texas women coming around with the state flag on their oars. Also a really strong crew, and I believe they're going to be followed by Chicago. If I remember correctly, I think they did pretty well last year too. Texas and I believe a Vespoli shell.
Yeah, definitely Vespoli.
Yeah, good front end out of the stroke. Not a whole lot of lean back, so they're trusting that the drive from their legs, right, the power from their quads and hamstrings is propelling the boat through, and they're swinging just enough to bring that handle around the oarlock, right, around its point fixed out on the boat, and swinging through into the body, and that boat is just going to sail past that point. Zoomed in a little close, so I'm not seeing the margin exactly, but looking for bow seat, I think getting just not quite past the stern. So we would call that less than a full boat length per stroke, but pretty close. This is a good amount of meters per stroke for four women in the shell.
And this Texas club program, not the Texas varsity women's program, which is the NC2A champions, and we don't want to discount the work that these women are doing, but it's going to be an interesting thing to see happen, because on the women's side now, with all of this NIL money and some things like that, women's varsity programs are being limited to 68 athletes, and many of the larger programs have had significantly more than 68 athletes. So are those women at Texas who are no longer going to be on the team, are they going to stay at UT because they like they like where they are, or are they going to transfer? But you could imagine some pretty good athletes coming down into some of these programs that also have a really solid varsity program.
And what we can also say is, I can say some from firsthand observation. It's just a great culture of rowing in Texas developing over the last decade or so.
Absolutely.
At the club level, at the varsity level, at the masters and junior level too. And we'll get back to that in a minute, because now we have Orange Coast coming down, and they are stepping on it. So a strong crew right now, but I think that stroke rate is up, and they're also in their last 250 meters of their piece. They know, I imagine everyone knows, that there is a standard that they need to reach on this time trial to get into the ABC semis, but also trying to catch up to those crews from the A final last year. Our stroke seat really long. You can see even from that aerial point of view, the legs pressed all the way down. There's full connection from the heel to the hip, full usage out of it, and she's still stretching all the way out over those legs. So they finish, they're cooling down as they go.
Orange Coast also an interesting program, because they're a community college. They're one of the few two-year institutions that are here. So those women overwhelmingly are probably sophomores, maybe a freshman or two in there. A lot of Southern California junior rowers may go there staying closer to home. They may go there to get academically in order, to make some sort of development as an athlete, but then looking to move into other college programs, either varsity or a different club, as they move forward.
But they're coming into their last little bit of this time trial piece. Really great step and swing, long strokes. This great aerial shot shows that those oars are parallel or even reaching just past that bend in the rigger that connects the shell to the oarlock, which is just a great amount of reach. I believe we've seen Lafayette come by, who were number 2 in this event last year, and we'll see Grand Valley soon and Tulane soon on the screen. Coxswains are energized. They are direct. I can hear them from the shore, and they are treating this like it is the grand final, not letting their crews get lulled into any sense of, I don't know, complacency, good word to use, right? Since there's nobody around them, they're treating it like you need to row for your lives. You need to row like you've put a year's worth of work into this. Sometimes they're coming in right now. Something in the 620s is right now setting the pace for this event. Last event was the men's novice 4. The event before that was the men's double. If you missed one of these events, one of the great things about this live stream link, you can just rewind and start from the top. You'll still hear us talking, and we'll catch you up on what's happened to the crews when you get back. But about 5 or 6 crews from the women's varsity 4 have finished. FSU, Florida State coming through right now. Great stroke here. Again, looking at those oars reaching out just past the elbow of that rigger. Handles up at a nice height so that they can suspend their weight to bow and drive this shell down the course as fast as possible. Great shot from the aerial. You see gritting teeth. You see some jaws hanging open because they are just pushing themselves so hard in the sprint. And, there's no time to think about anything else, right? Head might bobble around a little bit. You
just need to stay as efficient as you can, as little extra motion as you can, and they're doing a nice job there of sitting up, and there's no extra junk in the row in the stroke.
I like the send here on this
but
crew,
sand is good,
and they're really clean up and out of the water. Stroke seat, so the woman leading the shell has one of those leg drives that looks like no one's ever going to mess with me. So excited to see what they do coming out of this final.
And starting to see some results pop up on this in herenow.com. That FIT crew about 4 seconds out in front of Lafayette in second. 6:21, pretty good time, which would have put them in like the top 20 in the novice men.
4. And that is number 1 and number 2 from last year. I'm not sure yet how many athletes are returning from those crews. Perhaps all, perhaps none. We'll find out a little bit from the teams later on today. But great. Setting the pace for this event. Michigan State
is going past us at the 1500.
Passing us by. Good long strokes there. What I'm seeing out of these strokes, so something else we could break down, right? There's different approaches to how your stroke rate goes. There's different approaches to in between the strokes as you roll back up to the catch and recover. Different approaches of how you're going to do that to keep your boat quick. So that Michigan State crew, when we see them, I'll point out, really quick hands away, a little bit more patient out. This crew, what we're seeing, this is VCU? Yeah, this is VCU, Virginia Commonwealth, out of Richmond. Patient hands away. It looks like the speed that their hands come in to finish the stroke is the same
what it is
speed
going out.
As out. So basically a 1-to-1, making sure that just everything is flowing back up, because you're not going to see it in the varsity crews. I'm not going to hang on it and point it out too much in the novice crews, but what you might see in a less disciplined stroke is that as they recover and come back up to the catch, if they do it in a way where the weight throws around out of time or inefficiently, they can just push their shell back to the stern and slow themselves down on the way to take a good stroke. This
now you're seeing
Pittsburgh. Yeah, this is Pittsburgh. Very clear gold and blue in the Vespoli hull. Long, powerful stroke. Also a very front-end dominant stroke here. 3 seats, a very long athlete.
And as they came across there, you can see the last couple of strokes a little bit out of rhythm, but now they're just like, thank God that's over.
Yeah, they're happy. They're probably one of the crews that had to launch on time around 8 a.m. and then maybe had to wait for a while down at the start. We had a very foggy start to the day. Some of the rain last night brought in some debris that had to get cleared expeditiously across the course, but now we have clear skies, clear water, and an event that is running on time.
And
UNH.
Here you can see UNH, yeah, hanging really nicely together. You can just see all those shoulders staying down, so they're not actually using the shoulders to push this. They're just hanging in them, and they're using the core and the legs very nicely coached. And you can see also then just the way the oars are coming into the water. Little bit of mismatch there between the bow woman closest to you and the the three seat, and so you saw the wobble that sort of came from that. Again, as they're trying to sort of squeeze out the last few strokes that sometimes falls apart if they don't do it together. Over the course of the regatta, I'm sure they hope to sort of make that be better and better. They'll come off afterwards, they'll talk about it. What can we do?
Yeah.
Oh, our sprint needed X, Y, or Z, and they'll add that in.
We'll see them in a minute. We see Virginia Commonwealth again, VCU Club on the men and women's side in their last little bit of their sprint to finish off their time trial. Really good hang and pick up off that front end and a bit of a newer Spoli hull.
You can see the hang. You could see the in that varsity in the stroke hanging really nicely in that arm. You can see it again there.
Great step
that's
and
very,
and
very
it's going to be
efficient.
great. You're going to see it all day long in this in the heats. As soon as crews pass that finish line, they're not going to stop rowing automatically, but they're going to take their foot off the gas, and everything kind of comes back like, oh my gosh, I was just in so much pain. Oh my gosh, my lungs are burning. Right? That their endurance is holding them off from feeling so much, or it's not getting to them. But once you pass through, everything kind of comes back like a tidal wave. So you're going to see crews experiencing, wow, I just really put myself in the well.
This is Virginia Tech here now on your on your side. In that bow woman, you can see she's actually leading with the shoulders a little bit, which is a little different than we saw in the other crew. Just a different approach from what we saw with UNH. And as a result, a little bit of missing water there, where the blade doesn't quite get in at full reach where you would like it to. But nonetheless, all four athletes doing the same thing, and that's really the most important part, that they're working together and not fighting each other.
George Mason on the screen here. They passed by that UNH crew as we were talking about them. So everything we said about that UNH crew that we really liked, George Mason is also doing at a bit higher clip. So this is a really, I'm gonna say, aggressive stroke rate in a good way. They're not letting any little bit of maybe they had to wait too long or conditions weren't ideal when they started. They're not letting any of that affect them. They're really putting this out there an advantage. So this is a great shot because you can see those net legs, knees drive down aggressively. So a lot of times you see that boat come across the course. It can look long. It can look patient. You can, as a viewer, be confused to think that, oh, wow, that's really nice. But once you see the legs drive down, that's the same pressure you're doing a squat, a deadlift with, except you're doing it 36 times in a minute for 6-7 minutes straight. With a whole boat and all of your teammates in and around with you. Northwestern is passing us by at the 1,500 meter mark. You'll see
very aggressive rowing. Very aggressive rowing. They're under control, but really you can tell them. You can see the pickup in the boat, which you'll see as they come into your screen.
That's going to be
soon.
an attack when I get here to the finish line. Finish line coming through. This should be that George Mason crew, and they can take their foot off the gas after a great morning piece.
But the body's still absolutely matched up, absolutely linked and pushing. That's a sign of some good coaching of how to remain efficient. And then that was Virginia Tech also coming through. So again, with these women's varsity fours, some of them clearly the best four athletes on the team, and others the second or even third group of athletes in the program, whether depending on how the program has selected their crews. If they have a varsity 8, there's always the expectation that will be their priority boat, and most of the time it is. Here you can see, I believe, St. Thomas on your or is that
Kansas State?
Kansas State, maybe. Yep, Kansas State, sorry. Again, purple and white. And this is what we call a bucket. So two rowers on the same side right next to each other. It was. Now we've switched the switched the camera view. But in that previous boat, you had one rower, then two rowers, then one rower, which we call a bucket. The two rowers being right behind each other on the same side. Actually, there's a lot to be said for bucketing a four, in terms of you sometimes look at how the bodies link up in the boat. Sometimes you look at the weight distribution within the boat of the athletes. But the nice thing about a bucket is it puts the center of torque directly across from the other side center of torque in the hull.
Yeah, and a nice push here. This is UC Dave. UC Davis coming into their red buoys into the last bit. Stroke seat is aggressive. You can tell that they want this boat to move as fast as possible. I believe they're in, is that a pocock shell? No, I might be wrong about that. But the crew's going with them. There's a really big step and squeeze off the front end as they pick it up into their sprint. I believe this is in the red shell and the red unis.
With black and white.
And assume Liberty.
Liberty. Yeah.
Liberty University, I believe.
Those bright red boats.
Atlanta, Georgia, is that where they're at?
Lynchburg, Virginia.
Lynchburg, Virginia, huh? How about that?
Jerry Falwell's country.
All right. So they're coming through the 1,500 meter marks, and they're actually catching up to a crew in their lane. So we will find out if these crew ahead is going to yield, which is typically the
it's their responsible
thing to do. Or if Liberty is going to have to just move out of their lane slightly.
And you can see the Liberty coxswain just choosing to find clean water, which is fine. What should have happened is the bow rower in the other boat, because the coxswain can't see it, should have said, hey, they're coming up on us, we need to yield. But the Liberty coxswain being proactive and saying, I'll just get myself some clean water.
Yeah, and you're going to assume that after they come off the water, they might be a little bit upset that they had to change their course, because now they've added a couple more meters onto their course, therefore a couple more seconds. But way safer for them, way safer and better for the rest of their weekend to not have any chance of collision.
They also have some very nice rowing going on there, just watching those blades all matching together, the front end not missing any water. They go straight in. If you look at the other crew, you can see there's sort of a hang right before the blade goes in. In the red boat, it's very direct and right in, and that's part of what's making the difference. And that's a pretty quick pass going on. I mean, they've come through a couple of lengths in the last 30 strokes, and it's taken them about 10 or 15 strokes to get through, which is awesome. And you can just see, again, the nice release off of the water that was happening there at the same time. Trying to figure out what crew this is. Maybe Penn State. That was being passed by Liberty.
Yep, this is Penn State. That was Purdue getting passed by Penn State. I'm sorry. Purdue was the crew getting passed by Liberty. Penn State is here in a race of their own. They're, I think, a little bit behind the rest of the field, coming out of State College. They have a good presence here. I'm sure we're going to be hearing some cheers from Happy Valley residents later on today. Their tent is right beside us, so you guys might pick them up on the mic. This is good follow through here. I think a little bit of a change in the coaching staff from year to year going to this one.
But this here, just as they're going into a sprint, it's just getting short through the water. So you can look as they went those last 3 or 4 strokes across, the stroke just sat up a little bit too much on both sides, trying to get the rating up. Again, it's got to focus not so much on rating, but on how you're doing it through the water. Again, this is the type of thing that coaches can work on between now and the next race, as they'll see it. If that was Liberty, then looks like it passed a number of crews on their way down, which I'm not surprised, because that rowing was quite gorgeous. In front of us right now is Middlebury. Again, the cow print, very easy to tell who Middlebury is. Really efficient regatta being run here by the referees. Everything sort of going. That's Bowdoin that just went across the line there. Again, just the crews coming down in a regular fashion, really sort of getting their stuff in and in place. Looks like a Vermont crew that should have gone off last was there. But, sometimes if a crew doesn't make the start, they'll just hold them back and
Right.
send them last down the course. This looks like Ohio State is going to be the last crew that we see.
From the
but-
women's varsity 4. Starting after that, first in their time trial is the UMass, University of Massachusetts Amherst men's varsity 4, who have had a pretty good season so far. They are focused on the 4 this year in their first year with a new head coach, Coach Isabel Bigelow.
And Eddie, where did you row in college?
Oh, somewhere nearby. I think somehow on the same campus.
Yeah, funny that.
So I think I know a decent
Minutemen?
amount about this crew. We go by the Aggies because this crew, UMass rowing program started in 1879 initially because the school is an agricultural school. And back then, they'd go and find Harvard, they'd go and find Cornell and race against them. There was a dormant period, and it restarted in the 1950s. And UMass hasn't always had the best mascots, ones that really need to get left in the past. But one we hang on to is the Aggies agricultural school, because this is a club program and is really proud about their club
Their history.
right?
Longer
And
than many of the varsity programs on
and
that
their
campus, I'm
ownership
sure.
of it. So great clip from those guys coming through. We'll see them back at the final. They won the New England Championship Open 4, and I think their eyes are set on a high finish this weekend. But they're being chased by Texas, who you'll see pretty soon. Texas, I believe, must have won the event last year if they got the points trophy. Really good press. I got to meet their coach yesterday for the first time, and the way he was excited about this regatta, I think, emanates out to his guys who
Absolutely.
look like they are just thrilled to be on this course.
Look at that 3-man, so long and nice and hanging. Just, you can see there's nothing up in the shoulders. It's all just this press of the legs, and then the arms hang out. And nice, big, tall guy able to do that much hang. Because of his length, he doesn't have to get quite as much body forward as the other,
Right.
so he starts from a stronger position.
Right, but the other guys
to
are
go
trying
with.
to catch his length. So
Absolutely.
They are doubled over. So they actually won the B final last year, so I think they're hungry to make it to the grand final this year. Coach Sean McKenna leading that crew. This is Illinois.
And they've had this is their four top guys, and they've had a pretty successful season. Had the pleasure of working with them over spring break, and very definitely were working on getting the shoulders out and around as they did, a little bit of body weight leaning into the rigger. That was sort of a new idea for one or two of them, that they could use the oarlock as a sort of a balance point. So that's some very, very nice rowing going on. This looks like Lafayette here.
Yep.
And the Illini there are really sort of building a nice program with their new coach, Peter
New
Felici.
coach. I've had some of my high school athletes one year got a loaner set of oars from Illinois and made it to the youth nationals with them. So maybe there's a little bit of magic in those Illini blades. But this Lafayette crew, really strong coming through. Really like to see what they're putting out there this morning. Bowman rocking an old school look, but long, strong stroke. You can see all these guys are pretty, if not tall, they got long arms, long legs, and those
That's a fairly large middle pair there.
yeah, and but bow and stroke, really long frame, so those hands are getting out. We saw in some of those novice fours earlier and some of the women's fours, handles getting out over that. I'm going to call it the elbow of the rigger, where it tilts back towards
Here they're way past it.
towards the stroke. Oh my God, they're so far past it. There's so much reach, and it's not this undisciplined reach where they're trying to double over and force the physics to work for them. They're maxing it out, and we got a bucket coming through. By bucket, we mean we have a port oar, 2 starboard oars, and then another port.
This is Southern California
Southern
here.
Cal's top boat, varsity 4, perhaps with the Philadelphia Eagles hat in the 2 seat. So you got some champions there.
Fly, Eagles, fly.
So they want to have a really good piece out of there. Another crew, first year with the new head coach. So that program is resetting and looking for a great amount of speed here. So that bucket is, Charlie could talk about it. all morning if you
I
all
love
want
me
to
a
hear
bucket.
it. There's so many
Michigan
things
men's
that
varsity 8, 3 buckets in one lineup. Can't wait to show you.
there's so many variables that coaches and crews can change on their rowing shell to maximize not just what works for their guys, but just maximize boat speed, right? A lot of physics going into this, hydrodynamics, aerodynamics, all that stuff. So there's a lot of fun things you can do. And sometimes we'd love to probably talk a little bit with the Trojans later on this weekend about why they're doing the bucket here. Sometimes that's, hey, top erg score is here. Next two are starboard guys, so let's put them together so that we can distribute that power a little further.
Or some
across the
guys
boat
just
more
row
evenly.
better behind someone. It
Exactly, yeah.
just does some magic for them.
So
Or they
again,
have it looks to me like their bowman was smaller, so
Yep.
they want to move him up into the bow further.
and so to say that sometimes it's technical, sometimes it's just feeling like what your rowers bring as teammates to each other, and the intangible things about it. So great to see from them. Red crew coming through, Black Blades. I'm going to believe this is the rowing club out of
107. It is
University of
U
Georgia. They're Athens, is that right?
Yes.
Athens, Georgia. School with just a great athletic presence right now. I think I'm going to say I've seen Georgia grow year to year, and just have a bigger presence at this regatta. So really happy to see them back out here on the course. Pretty far drive from them. In the oh my gosh, is that the yacker shell? Is that what I'm looking at? I think it's the yacker. Bucket hat on the coxswain. Hopefully not because his guys are splashing him, but these guys are having a long pace. This is one of those crews where they're a little bit bigger, right? Some bulky guys, so the stroke rate might look lower just because they're able to push pretty hard on it, but it still is probably up around that 35, 36. They've just come through the finish line.
And you sort of saw those last 3 or 4
Nice.
strokes just being, oh, please get us to the line.
We'll be seeing Michigan, MRA coming through soon. Long Beach. The fog's coming back
It
around
is.
at our spot. It's not on your screen yet. Is this
Well,
Bucknell on your screen?
these above shots for some reason are not they're not picking up the fog there very much.
Which
This
is great for you all. So I believe this is
This
Bucknell on our
would
screen,
be
right?
Bucknell, yeah, for sure.
Bucknell, great program, also rolling deep. So this is a program that I'm certain is focusing on the 8s. So these are guys in the
Varsity
middle of
8,
the pack.
second 8, then I think the 4.
And great leadership in that program. And a lot of the programs here, you can definitely tell from ones that are deeper, sometimes because they're a bigger school, but especially like, let's say, a deep program, I'm going to say it's over 30 to 40 athletes here from Bucknell, which is not a particularly big school. And one of the reasons that so many athletes stick around is because they know that they're valued. So I'm sure that when it comes out of this time trial, when it comes to the final, every Bucknell person available on the shore is going to be screaming their hearts out for these guys, because it's not just one boat that matters, it's every single crew. UNH, I think, also has a lot of pride in their program. These guys swinging through. I can't see the buoys. I'm going to guess they're up towards their finish because they are stepping on it. Very short breaths, just trying to endure the work they're putting in and the resilience.
You can see a little bit of snatch in the shoulder on that 2-man, so that's a little inefficiency there instead of connecting in the front. But, this could also just be how they've learned to sprint at the end, or he's a big, strong guy and he wants to feel the motion happening. One of the things about some of these walk-on athletes, it takes 3 and 4 years or more to really sometimes become very efficient at what you do. And so it feels like you're working hard because, well, you are working a little hard.
And Western Washington. Wow, Western Washington made it all the way out of, I believe, Belleville. That's a long trip for them. These guys are long,
they're
strong.
the
What do they have?
farthest west program
I think
here.
so. I don't think anyone.
The California ones are a little bit further
Yeah,
east.
and then Washington State is
in Pullman,
yeah,
to the
closer.
east of that.
And this is much more coastal. But great look from these guys. Pretty long, tall crew. I think they had a pretty good time. They've had a lot of racing this spring. West Coast has the WIRAs, WIRAs. They were probably, maybe not a San Diego Crew Classic. I haven't checked yet, but they hopefully have had a good amount of time racing in a region where they shouldn't have to go indoors for too long, as far as I understand their climate. So these guys are coming probably off a long season on the water. Michigan State is up and on, and Strokesy is in the goggles, the rec specs. They did really well in these small boats last year, and have from year to year.
You can see a little wobble in that hull, though, right? Sort of a lot of the other crews, you'll see the boat stays absolutely flat. Here, that means there's some body weight getting thrown around, maybe in 3 there a little bit to do that. Yeah, you can see him sort of throwing himself up into the front end, and that creates that wobble, which means it's harder to know where the catch is going to be.
Oh, but what a remarkable shift in pace to pick it up in the sprint here. This looks like 3 to 4 beats higher. These guys came to sprint on it. So that is something we should really keep in mind when they come to head-to-head racing. You know, they'll assert themselves and put themselves wherever they can in the pack. But I don't think any bets are in until they start their sprint. I think they're a crew that's going to try and use their closing speed to
absolutely, and we're starting to see some results coming in on the website. Eddie giving a very quiet celebration. His UMass Aggies currently holding the first spot at 5:48. Texas at a 5:49, UC Santa Barbara 5:51, Southern California 5:52, Michigan at 5:54, Vanderbilt at 5:54, Long Beach State at 5:55. So that's going to be a pretty tight set of racing there. So UMass the top 4, Texas the top 4, I think UC Santa Barbara the top 4, Southern Cal the top 4, Michigan numbers 17 through 20.
21.
17 through 20. Vanderbilt, I'm not sure. So putting your, again, this sort of mixture going on of top guys versus guys further down the list in some of the deeper, larger programs.
Nice.
So again, herenow.com, you can see the results as they pop up and join in the fun, see how they've done. This is UC Davis.
One of the many UC programs here, actually one of the many California programs. It's ever since this race has moved to Oak Ridge from Lake Lanier, Georgia, where it was in its opening years, it's been a great resource for more and more West Coast programs to make it here. Just that little bit of distance from Tennessee to Georgia just makes it more central for everyone, and I think is a reason why the regatta has expanded at the national championship over the last couple of years. So UC Davis, UC Irvine, SB, they were all making it to Georgia anyway, but these guys
UCLA,
and
USC on the private.
Yep, UCLA, the 23 champions
Yep,
in the V8. So a lot of good that the UC programs are here because they bring a lot of speed to the region, and they want to make sure that the East Coast and the Midwest schools don't get too comfortable.
And Santa Barbara and UCLA have now both won the men's varsity 8.
Right. I believe just at the corner of your screen there, that was probably a URI crew that just zipped past us out of the red
This
booth.
is some of our referees out on the
Yeah.
water there, making
Ooh.
sure everything is okay.
The one of the crews you're going to see pretty soon, I believe,
that's
is
nice
Texas
long.
Christian, and that is a long, strong stroke. I'm looking right at the 1,500 meter mark, and
They're solid.
200 meters before caught my eye out of the peripheral. I was like, who's that?
Who's moving? Absolutely.
So great work from the Horned Frogs there. Really excited to see where they stack up. The crew just a little bit behind them. I can't see the bound number yet.
You'll see as they come through. This here right now.
I'm going to say that
on
Sac
your-
State who is chasing them down. Nice. And up in our screen.
One of the multiple red crews.
Multiple red crews. Oh, I can't make it. I don't want to
With
call
a
it the
white
wrong-
blade, so
I don't
that's
wanna call it
helpful.
the wrong crew yet. I believe it's Chicago. Chicago, we've seen a
Yeah.
couple times in the small boats so far, in the fours and the doubles on the men's and women's side. Right?
They have stuck in the small boats. In part, they row on the Chicago River, which is narrow and windy and skinny, and it's hard to train 8s on that water successfully, actually, I think.
Yeah, I've had good races against Chicago crews in the past. But they're juniors. I don't know where who's that? Chicago Rowing Foundation.
They have the one sort of stretch,
Yeah, they
one
have
of
the
the,
one stretch.
the
They're
straightest
pretty deep in
stretches
the
in the
eights.
river. It's still narrow. They can't really do like 3 boats across. Even.
But programs are able to persist and find ways to be resilient on water that might not be ideal conditions, right? What does Michigan row on?
Just under 3,000 meters of water, 4 bridges, 5 turns. There's a 1,000-meter straight shot in there. You want to do a 1,500, it has a turn in it. There is no 2K. There's no place to do 2Ks at all.
So you find a way. Minnesota is here. Also a great stroke. Also a program that is returning to depth from the 8s to the 4s, and had a really great.
So these
showing
these
at the
almost
regatta
certainly
last
they're
year.
3V guys.
Yeah, and
with the
middle
varsity
pair
2V8. Yeah.
guys. These guys are big. I bet if they had this boat on shoulders on land, I could probably walk under it without having to crouch.
There's some big Midwest boys out there, and in Minnesota even more so, and Scott finds them. That's the one thing that I think is really great about ACRA is we still are able to walk on and teach kids to row. Increasingly at a place like Princeton where I rowed, there are almost no walk-ons coming into the sport. Every kid who comes to Princeton is an expert at something, and so they want to keep doing that thing or whatever it is. So I had never rowed before I went to college. I was a swimmer, football player in high school, and in ACRA we're still teaching guys how to row. So they're probably younger in the program. Purdue has huge guys. Again, a lot of walk-ons. Now that in some ways that's not going away, but what is adding into ACRA rowing is recruiting. It's becoming a more important part of it. And there are a lot of, particularly on the men's side, there are a lot of athletes rowing in some really good programs for whom, Bucknell is a great school for them, and that's where they want to go. You have a coxswain from New York, and he had some options if he wanted. He's a smart kid, and and he's sitting there, either coxing their 1V or their 2V this weekend. I'm not sure which one, and so he's coming with New York State's finalist experience and some other stuff like that when he comes. So this is also now happening. This is some very nice rowing here. Yellow.
It's Long Beach, I believe.
Long Beach, there you go. Another California school.
Nope, this is Wichita State. Sorry.
Oh, Shockers. They are the Shockers for the shocks of wheat. On the top there, a long-time program. We'll be talking a little bit later about John Bancari, one of our Hall of Fame inductees, but he spent some time out at Wichita State early in his career. Now you have, again, UNC in the Carolina Blue Oars. Bucket hat in the stroke seat is always worth some speed. Again, you can just see, as you're seeing in these boats, some big, tall guys. Nice length and nice hang, and the legs moving fairly close together there. So I think we're going to get another stream of results here with a fairly tight bunching of times, which is going to make for some really great A, B, and C semifinals, which will come up later in the regatta, obviously. We have Bowdoin going past
Bowdoin
us.
out of Maine. Great stroke here. This program's just had good crews year in, year out for I'm going to say forever.
Bowdoin?
As long as I've known about this sport. Polar Bears. I've had great racing against them in the 4s and the 8s.
You
these
can
guys,
just see such nice rhythm.
Yeah,
there.
and they're
It's just
live. They're
flowing.
long. I'm sure the stroke rate
Full
is
control
up
of what they're doing.
high.
A bucket.
Yeah, but they're such big guys that they don't need to be extra quick at any of these spots. They can use that length of their stroke to their advantage. A little bit too close for me to see how far out they're getting stroke to stroke in the puddles, but like I'm sure they're looking for 10 meters per stroke, 11 meters per stroke, something that's putting them around 135, 140 pace.
And mustaches, baby.
Yeah.
Mustaches and a bucket. All they need.
Gotta keep
all they
warm
need is
up
a
there.
bucket hat.
Gotta keep warm. George Washington is passing by us at the 1,500 meter mark, so you'll see them soon.
George Washington, another interesting program. They were a varsity program for quite some time, coached by Mark Gerke, who's now out at Oklahoma. And they lost their varsity status a few years ago and have had to imagine their transition into ACRA, which they've done quite well. They had very fast varsity 8 a couple of years back. And you had some guys from when you were coaching in Boston on there.
Oh yeah. I think it's a lot of great guys that went through there. Very different campus from Georgetown and some of the other DC area crews, but they love the Potomac and they love making boats move. So really great to see them make that transition to club rowing as seamlessly as possible. Because I believe they also have
and Bowdoin just came in 6th, just edging out Michigan down into 7th now. Here we see George Washington from up top. Not getting out as long as some of the other crews, but maybe they're in the sprint that it's hard for us to tell where they are. You can see the hands not getting particularly out beyond the angle of the oar as we're talking about. So they're probably in their sprint. One of the things you want to do in a sprint is stay as long as you can, but you have to absolutely focus on making that happen.
Great. Good shot here, seeing some grimaces, just seeing that they're putting themselves in, colloquially, the pain cave to wrap up this race. Just about in the early red buoy, some of them a little bit faded, but making it well worth it to wrap out their morning on Melton Lake.
And Georgia Tech going past us. They're the last crew to have a time trial this morning. Again, you can on your
This is Emory though. This is Emory.
yeah,
out of
Emory in
Atlanta.
front of them on your screen.
So that should be a good race if they start to come up on each other to Atlanta area Georgia crews. Emory, good small boats program. Oh, good pickup there in the drive, in the length. You can see that stroke rate just clicked up 2 or 3 beats as they come in to cap off their time trial with the fastest splits they can see. Change from coxswain to crew to crew. Some of them just want to hear the things that they can see and feel, where you are in the course, where you are compared to other crews. Some of them like to know all the data, what your split is every 500, maybe how many meters you're moving every stroke. But whatever they're focused on, they really picked up and made that move together.
Emory helps point out another issue that a lot of rowing programs face. Emory is in gorgeous part of Atlanta, right near the CDC, nowhere close to the water that they train on. So, there's a need in a lot of programs. In Santa Barbara, they literally go up and over the mountain to get to Lake Cachuma. So they go from the beach into up and over and into Lake Cachuma, and then depending on the time of the year and the amount of water that has been siphoned out of the lake to be able to keep agriculture afloat. When I coached there, the year I coached there, we started with a mile walk with the boats.
Right.
Now they're about 100 yards from the boathouse. So at about 85%, he was saying. So different teams have different things. Once you got out on a Cachuma, just absolutely gorgeous water to row on and to train on. But different programs having to make different things work. But then in the end, when you come here, everyone's got advantages, everyone's got disadvantages, everyone has strengths, everyone has challenges, but you sort of got to put your trow on one leg at a time. Most people do anyway. Maybe some people sit down.
Some people jump into it.
Some people jump into it.
Georgia
but
Tech
still.
has just finished their time trial, so that wraps up our time trials for the morning as we pan around. What we have coming up next pretty soon is the start of heat racing. So this will be side by side, Crews will be started in stake boats locked in for the most accurate, fair start to their race, because things might be decided here, semifinals, through the finals, by decimals of seconds, and photo finishes on battle balls. We're just at the top of the hour.
There will be a small break here, mostly because the referees have to redeploy. They've been all the way down the course, stationary, just to watch it go by, both for safety and for making sure there are eyes on that. They've got to now rearrange where the referees are for timing. They have to do all the rest of that. So there's going to be apparently a re-row, though, for two crews that did not manage to get times because of the fog. We can see where we are two doubles. They look like maybe that's what we're seeing. Going back up to the start, they didn't get times.
What he's seeing, those are pairs going up.
So it'll be Liberty and UC Santa Barbara who will be coming down.
That's going to be good for that Liberty crew, because I think I really liked the strokes they were putting down when they came down, so that'd be good for them too. Those were the skeletal hang guys. So
that's true, skeletal hang.
That would be good for them to come down and just fresh course. 5 and 54. All
so right. And 5 was right where that got cut, if I remember correctly, from the notes that we had on what was there. So they, yes, it was. We saw 5 go through, and that's when they called the racing. So advantage, disadvantage. You're getting to do it again. You get to fix things, or are you having to go hard again faster than you thought you were? You may actually now know the results. I mean, you may actually know something that you have to do.
I doubt they came in. And I doubt they have.
Well, they probably had to come in, and then the coaches say, "Hey, we don't have a result,"
okay.
Or the finish line would have said, "We don't have a result." There would have been communication. The athletes would not have known that there wasn't a result, so they would have just come to the shore.
So, yeah, they get another shot at it, and I'm sure they're going to go 100%. But I imagine their first piece was also 100%. So see
absolutely
how much they have to give.
See how well trained they are, but they should be able to. They should be able to handle it.
So that'll be Liberty and UC Santa Barbara, who we were just talking about back in his day, had to walk a mile to their lake to row every day. Now they only have to walk 100 meters. So
and back uphill after practice.
Uphill afterwards. So that's your conditioning, your core, your cross training.
We did not do much weightlifting when I worked there, because they wanted to, and I said, "You're doing it every day."
On your screen, you're going to see Liberty waiting to start their time trial, and a bunch of pairs and singles waiting in the wings, waiting in that area where they can queue up, again, marshals, so that they can line up in the starting blocks so that they can start their heat racing for the day. So that should still start. That first heat should start at 10:39 in the pair, women's pair, 2 rowers, 2 oars total. Liberty is making their way onto the course, probably starting around that 250-meter marked buoy, the red among the yellow. Oh, and it's UCSB 4. Interesting. Okay, so good fair shot for all these crews as they get one more chance down the course to get a time that they deserve to know.
It looks like they're just running them together rather than sending them down sequentially, which is fine because they just need the time. And they have a lane in between them so that there's not going to be any wash or issues like that. You would expect the 4. Actually, a 4 and a double can be a quite good match. They may actually put each other down the course really nicely.
Unless they're entirely internally focused, they're still going to try and use these margins to push and propel them for a faster time. Liberty also going to be working through this course as clean and straight as they can, because 1,750-meter time trial, not the best thing to pop out of it and see that you rode 1,900 meters. So, hoping to make it as
what he's talking about, for those of you who are new to the sport, is there is a significant amount now of electronics that we can put into a boat, telemetry that we can see, all sorts of ways that we can get data. One of the basic things that they can do is actually use GPS to measure the length of their race. So if we were calling this as a race there, it just looks like the double has gotten up to speed. That's not unusual. There's less mass, less body weight going on there. So they can get up and get going quicker. But once they got up there right now, they seem to be matching speed fairly well without sort of thinking too much about the levels of the boats. Now, is that a men's 4 or women's 4? Number 58, they said. We have the data. We can find out.
I'm gonna guess it's the women's 4. We'll get on that in a second. Yeah, Charlie was talking about there's so much gear, there's so much technology we can use. So they probably have what we call stroke coaches, which give you your metrics, how many you're split, how fast you're going down your course, all that kind of stuff. The higher level of that is you can actually attach that to your oar locks and get just power curves and a lot of the physics output. But that, at most regattas, is still not allowed in racing shells, right? It's training data. I know at some events they make sure it is clear that is not allowed on shells when they race. Also, in some of the newer Cox shells, the steering, when it goes back to the center point, so usually it's this handle that goes left to right for port or starboard. When it gets back to true middle, it clicks, and it lets you know that the rudder and the skeg are back aligned with each other, which is very nice because it should be fine. But sometimes you have debris in your river and you hit things, and things get a little bit off kilter, or you're learning how to steer, which is not easy. It's like driving, but a little more unique.
So this is UCSB's Novice 4.
Men's Novice 4. Great. So actually that's going to be a really great comparison for the Liberty Men's Double, who I think are already a little bit ahead of this UCSB 4. Gauchos. But I'm sure these guys are happy again to have a good, clean shot down the course to wrap up their morning and their first time attending ACRA National Championship. It's a little bit past the
pretty
top
nice
of the
rowing
hour.
for some novices there, smooth together. I'd like to see a little bit longer into the catch. Again, you can see the hands not getting quite as far out over the rigger as we might like, but it's together, and whatever you end up doing, you've got to do together and at the same time. So again, that double just took about a length or so off the start, and then the two crews have just sat there relative to each other.
Good. And yeah, Strokeman sitting pretty upright, the hands spread out pretty far, and as he picks it up, shoulders stay wide open. They get a little lock up in the shoulders. That is Abbott and Meeker, who are taking good strong strokes, trying to establish himself as far ahead of that novice crew as possible. Is the really
in
good.
The bow rower there, the one to your right, you can see again the shoulders staying nice and down, a little bit of lift, and the stroke. Stroke is a bigger, stronger guy, so maybe he's trying to muscle a little bit more, just mentally. It's not even necessarily intentional, but the blade's going very nicely through the water, both of them, when you watch it. With the Santa Barbara guys here, shoulders staying nice and down, and hang. I wish that they would hang on the arms a little bit longer, but still all